Welcome to Soul Hydration. God be with you. I'm your host, Pastor Naomi Austin. What if you saw the death of Christ? Journey with me to the book of Isaiah 53 and 5. 53rd chapter, 5th verse. I wish I could bring before you in a living color the suffering and death of Christ. If I could, I do not believe there would be a dry eye in the house. I want to speak of his physical suffering, for I think we can grasp that. No one knows or can know what Christ's mentally suffering were. No one knows how he suffered. No one knows what his mental sufferings were, except his Father. When a great man has died, we all are angered to hear what his last words were. And if a friend of ours dies, how we treasure his last words, how we repeat them over and over to people that wanted to know, what did he say? How did she say? What did she say? How did they die? And we never get tired of talking about our loved ones, about how he made his departure from this world. But brothers and sisters, let us visit Calvary in much the same way. Let us view the last words and actions of Christ before he died on the cross. I would draw from all four Gospels in the account that follows. We're going to go back to Christ's crucifixion. Let us go back in our imaginations and suppose that we are living in the city of Jerusalem during the time of Christ. We are walking up one of the streets of Jerusalem on the last day that Jesus spent with his disciples before he was crucified. As we walk, we see a small group of men surrounded by a crowd. Many people are running to see what the excitement is. As we get nearer, we find that it is Jesus with his disciples. We walk down the streets with them and watch them enter into an ordinary looking house. We enter also, and there we find Jesus sitting with his disciples. We can see sorrow written all over his face. His disciples sees his grief, but they do not know what has caused it. Someone said, our Lord's last hours must have been a great mystery to the 12 disciples. He had filled Jerusalem with wonder at the raising of Lazarus, and here he was talking about death. Here he could raise a dead man who had been already in the grave for 4 days. What did it mean? The 13th chapter of John tells us why Jesus was so sorrowful. Jesus was troubled in his spirit and testified and said, verily, verily, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. Then the disciples looked at one another, doubting of whom he spake. Now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom of his disciples whom Jesus loved, Simon Peter, therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake. He then, lying on Jesus' chest, saith unto him, Lord, who is it? Jesus answered, it is he to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simeon. Verse 21 through 26. Soon after Christ said to Judas, what you are doing, what you are going to do quickly. Then Judas leaves the room. For 3 years, he has seen what the prophets would have been glad to see. For 3 years, he has been associated with the Son of God. For 3 years, brothers and sisters, Judas has been one of the 12 disciples, one of the 12. He is sat at the feet of Jesus. He has heard his words of sympathy and love. He has listened to his parables. He has seen Jesus perform miracles. He has been exalted to heaven with privilege. Yet Judas goes out into the night, into the darkness, brothers and sisters, that this world ever saw, the darkest night the world ever saw, the saddest parting that ever took place on this earth, out into the darkness, despair, remorse, and death. Hear him as he goes down those steps, off into the darkness. Hear him. Close your eyes and see the blackness of the night. He goes to Sanhedrin and to the chief priests and says to them, what will you give me if I deliver him to you? The Bible tells us that they covenant with him for 30 pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver. Matthew 26:15. 30 pieces of silver, brothers and sisters. You can hear the money being counted. Judas put it into his bag. Then he says, give me a band of men, and I will take you where he is. 30 pieces of silver was a very small amount. People can condemn Judas, but how many are selling Christ for less than he did? Some men and women will sell him for just a little pleasure. How many are giving up Christ and all hopes of heaven for less than 30 pieces of silver? Though Jesus was deeply sorrowful, anticipating his suffering, it was on that very night that he said to his disciples, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. John 14, 14th chapter, 1st verse. Instead of the disciples trying to comfort Jesus, he tried to cheer them up. He who knew no sin was to bear all sins. He who was as spotless as the angels of heaven was to suffering for us. From a lonely spot in Gethsemane, his earnest prayer ascended to heaven. Then cometh Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and sat unto the disciples. He saith unto the disciples, sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder. Now remember, you are there too. Remember in your eyes, in your mind's eye, that you are sitting right there with the disciples. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith unto them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here, and watch for me. And he went a little further, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, my God in heaven, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thy will. And he cometh unto his disciples, and findeth them asleep, and saith unto Peter, what? could not wait with me just 1 hour? Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away again the second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then cometh he to his disciples and saith unto them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise up, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand, and that doeth betray me. Matthew 26, 36 through 46. Jesus knew he was about to be betrayed. And he sees the men who are hunting for him. They are looking around through the olive trees for someone. The Lord knows exactly whom they're looking for. They are searching. They are searching, and you see them with your mind's eye. Yet he walks right up to the head of the men and asks, Whom are you looking for? And they replied, We are looking for Jesus of Nazareth. I am he. There's something about the statement that terrified those men. John's account tells us that when Jesus answered them, they all knocked backwards and they fall to the ground. Then Judas came up and kisses Christ on the face, for he has arranged that this as a signal with the Sanhedrins. He would kiss the one whom they were looking for. When Peter sees what is happening, he draws his sword and cut off the ear of the servant of the high priest. But Jesus healed the wound at once. He would not let the man suffer. He did not come to destroy life, but to save it. The soldiers seized Jesus. Those hands that had worked so many wonderful miracles, those hands that had often been raised to bless